We love old cemeteries and churchyards, so come with us as we explore these places for the past. Today we have come somewhere a bit special. We have come into the city of Edinburgh to visit Liberton Cemetery, which is actually in 3 parts that are of increasing interestingness. So stick with us and we'll show you the 3 sections of this wonderful old cemetery. Wonderful old cemetery with not a bad view over the city. Liberton was a small village just outside Edinburgh, and we're up quite high here, so it would have been a lot of fresh air and a lot of better living than down the bottom there with the factories and the shipyards and all the horrible stuff that would have been there during the Industrial Revolution. And did I mention there were war graves here? This is Warrant Officer Ford of the Royal Air Force, who died in 1947. We're going to see a few of his colleagues about here, I think, because of our proximity to Edinburgh Airport, which was a training base. And just down the hill a little bit from him, there is somebody from the Royal Navy, Stoker Petty Officer Wilson, who was HMS Knight Rider. That's nothing to do with Michael Knight, I don't think. And behind the man from Knight Rider, you can see how many war graves can you see here. Let's play this game again, because I can see for definite 3. So let's go and have a look at them. Oh no, 5. There's 2 up there as well. Oh, actually, I think probably a lot more than 5. You may want to put the kettle on and get a cuppa, because this could take a while. This is Corporal Scott of the Royal Army Service Corps. Again, 1946. These ones are all after the end of the war. In some cases, well after the end of the war. But these ones aren't. Side by side for eternity, it's Sergeant Burt, a wireless operator in the Royal Air Force, who died in 1940, and Private Davidson from the Pioneer Corps, who also died in 1940. So yeah, this is a really nice wee cemetery. Most of the civilian graves around here are all 1940s, 1950s as well, so not be spending too much time on those, but trust me, if you like old stones and old iconography, there's plenty of that coming up. And another Air Force gentleman, Corporal Hunter, from 1946, age 28. So yeah, this is a really nice wee corner of the cemetery, and as you can see, the sun has come out. Over there is the old Liberton Kirk. Guess where the oldest part of the graveyard is? Yeah, you got it. The usual problem with graveyards being built on quite steep slopes, lots of stones have fallen over, but not the stone of Corporal W.H. Shelton, Royal Air Force, again 1946. These are all looked after by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, so they're not allowed to fall down. They're all kept in very good condition, even when most of the ones round about them have toppled over or are indeed gone. That's quite well shown here. All of these ones are lying down, or stones are missing in some cases, but here, standing strong, is Private Mulvey of the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, again 1941, Second World War, age 21, and somebody's brought him a wee drinky. There's a lot of very modern stones dotted about in with all the older ones here within the 1950s, or in this case 1944 for Corporal Baxter of the Royal Scots. There's all sorts of different regiments and battalions and divisions represented here in this cemetery. And you do get a slightly better view of the view. A view of the view. Ian, you're gibbering, but there's a view of the view from Liberton Cemetery. Yeah, the ratio of standing up to having fallen over is quite low. Is this vandalism, people pushing them over? Were they laid down to make them safe? I've got no idea, but they're all still here. And let's go round this way, because there's more war graves here, and we're heading up towards the first step back in time. There's Sergeant Bain, who's another wireless operator from the Royal Air Force, and there's a few more over there, but I'm not going to go and take a shortcut through people's gravestones. I'll go up here till we find a path. Oh, that's handy, because then we get to see Driver Munro of the Royal Army Service Corps. Again, 1943, so still all very much Second World War. This is Ordinary Seaman Windsor, who was on HMS Dolphin in 1942, and down the bottom it says his brother Robert, 2nd Lothians and Border Yeomanry, was lost at sea 7th of January 1943, so his brother has been added to the bottom of Ordinary Seaman Windsor's headstone. And that is Sergeant Landals of the Lothian and Border Yeomanry, Royal Armoured Corps from 1942. Sleeping where no shadows fall, in perfect peace he awaits us all. But I think that's about enough of the 1940s. Let's head up the hill, and we're not going to look at any more Commonwealth war graves, although we might say hello to Private Gray of the General Service Corps, and yeah, there's quite a few more up here. I think we've probably done about enough. I'll go and say hello to them, but I won't bore you with it. Okay, one more. This is interesting because it's got a naval gentleman for Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve and somebody from the Royal electrical and mechanical engineers. So that is Sub-Lieutenant MacLeod and Corporal MacLeod. They are related, very probably brothers. That's quite a nice touch. That is the two brothers in the same grave. I've never seen that before, but we are learning new things all the time. So this is the back wall of the bit that we've just been in, and it's all, as you can see, 1930s, 1940s, etc. But we're going to go through the gate. This is a cemetery that's very obviously extended in 3 stages. So we're going to go now from stage 3 into stage 2. And this is heading into stage 2. There were some people tending a grave around here somewhere, so I'm not going to be talking too much if they're still about, because I don't want to disturb them. This is quite nice. This is in memory of Louisa Agnes Griffin, wife of the Reverend George Sinclair, who died in Liberton in 1926. And their son-in-law, Private D.J. MacLeod, 2nd Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders of Colonna, Cosma, Paraguay, South America, killed 1917, aged 29, and he's buried in Belgium. And I was going to show you how much older this bit was with First World War graves, but nope, these are still from the Second World War. That is Driver Macpherson, Royal Army Service Corps. And next to him is the Supply Chief Petty Officer Crow from HMS Racer. I do love some of these ships' names. I thought I was being really clever with the dates, but this is all about the same. Oh, here we go, 1935. No, we're still in the 1930s. There's definitely an older bit, and don't worry, that is where we are heading soon. And now we are back into the First World War. That is Sapper Moody from the Royal Engineers in 1919, and he's back to back with someone else. And that someone else is Private Hay of the Cameronians, the Scottish Rifles, from 1919. So yeah, First World War still. So, there's another one over here, which is 1919. That's Private Campbell. And then there is, just to mess it up a bit, there is Lance Corporal Johnson from 1946. So again, a bit of a mix of dates in this wee bit as well. Okay, we're now heading up the path there towards the church, but let's stop off and check out some of these nice stones. This was an area that obviously had quite a lot of money. This is a memory of Alexander Sturrock, who was an accountant at the British Linen Bank, and he died in 1917, and his wife, who died 10 years later in 1927. So let's keep going up this way. There are some very, very nice stones here. Not hugely particularly old, but very interesting. This one's having a wee lie down after doing its job for 100 years, but this is in loving memory of the Reverend Thomas Creve Clark, M.A., Minister of the Free Church of Scotland at Bombay and Odessa. He died in Edinburgh in 1901. And Isabel Struthers Wilson, widow of David Shannon of Liverpool, who died in 1912, and Sir Thomas Sinclair Clark, FAC of Toronto. No idea what FAC is. And then Robert Jeffrey, FFA AIA. These people have all got letters after their names that I do not know. Well, I know the letters, obviously, I just don't know what they mean. We're still mostly in the 1900s. That's not what I was expecting. I think we'll go up to the back wall, because that might be the oldest bit, and behind that wall is a bit that is definitely old, that I used to explore a lot when I was much younger. Not been here for a lot of years, but do remember some very impressive tombstones. Well, actually, what I mostly remember was skull and crossbones when you're a wee boy obsessed with pirates. There's lots of very nice stones in this part, in loving memory of Catherine Christina Sibella, not a common surname, daughter of the late Reverend John McRae from Glenelg. That's up near Inverness-shire, died in 1919. And next to them we've got Company Quartermaster Sergeant A. McKem McCutcheon, Royal Army Service Corps from 1918. And I've just seen one more war grave in this particular part of the cemetery, so we're going to go and have a wee look at it. It is down against the back wall. There's a fresh grave next to us I'm trying not to film. This is Captain G.W. Jones, Royal Air Force, and he died in 1918, and he's got his Commonwealth Wargrave headstone, and he's also got a big thing there that it says the Reverend George William Jones, who was a captain in the Royal Air Force. So he died at the Central RAF Hospital in London in 1918. So Reverend Jones has got that big memorial there, and his wee Commonwealth War gravestone there. The back wall does have some really nice memorials. That's really nice. Look at the colouring on that, the sort of marble that's weathered, in affectionate memory of Annie James, widow of the Deputy Surgeon General James Fraser, and of the Reverend John Charles Garrick, Minister of Newbattle, who died in 1915. Yeah, these are all quite cool. And there's an iron merchant from Edinburgh, John Good, iron merchant. And then there is Mary Covell Greenlees, wife of Robert Bruce, who died at Carradale, Granby Road, Edinburgh in 1912. John Hislop, born 1857, died in 1915. Yeah, this is quite interesting, this back wall. The great and the good of the local area. People with money who wanted to leave their mark on the wall of the cemetery. Like Andrew James Phillip, who died in 1910, and his wife Mary Lawrence Hunter, who died in 1928, and various members of their family. Sometimes you read things, and as you're reading them, your brain catches up with what it's actually saying, because this is quite a nice stone for somebody very important. In loving memory of John Scott Seater, who was born 22nd of January 1909, and then died the 24th of March, also 1909. And Margaret Scott Seater, who was born in 1905 and died 1912, and then Jane Tate Scott Seater, who was born 1876 and made it through to 1936. We could probably pretty much do a whole episode just going along the back wall of this cemetery. It's all very grand. This is quite a high status place to end up. That one there's quite nice with its columns and its granite panels, and this is to the Hood family, I think, because it says Hood down there. Agnes Hood Stobie and Mary Stuart Stobie and various Thomas Stobie and another Thomas. Yeah, you get the idea. That is the Stobie family too. And the blue sky and the sunshine make this a lot more exciting than it was when we were going around graveyards in Manchester in the peeing rain. This is another quite grand thing on the wall, but the grandest person on it, I guess, is Robert Flint DD LLD, native of Dumfriesshire, son of Robert and Grace, Professor of Moral Philosophy and Political Economy at St Andrews University, Professor of Divinity at Edinburgh University, Correspondent of the Institute of France, and Honorary Member of the Royal Society of Palermo, and he died in Edinburgh in 1910. That's enough of that. I can now call this the newer bit, because wait till you see what is through this gate. Hopefully there are no people standing about. Yep, no, there are no people about. This is moving into the ancient kirkyard here at Liberton, and we start off with the skull and crossbones and hourglass on this really neat little memento mori tombstone with its sort of columns in there like a temple. No idea, not got a date on it, but we're going to guess 1700s for that one, aren't we? We're going to guess 1700s, and we would be wrong. This here lies Patrick Ferguson, who died the something of September 1690. His age 63 years. That is so cool. And behind that we've got this, which is quite, oh right, it's quite grand from the side. It's quite amazing from the front. Look at that. That is a farming scene with the hills in the background and people working in the fields. There's some horses and there's some more horses. Or is that looks like a horse. That looks more like oxen. And then people working the land. This gentleman must have been a landowner or a farmer. It's quite difficult to make out. It'll be a bit of an angle for you, but it says here lies interred, and then there's the name. Looks like Middleton at the end or something. I'll have to double check that. But the date is definitely clear, 1768. So yeah, it's a very old stone. It's got some nice old script at the top, and then some much sort of bolder carving at the bottom. 1828 for old John down there. This is a whole new world of iconography. You've got some sort of plant things there, and then you've got that statue that I'm going to try and figure out what it is. I'm thinking, I'm not entirely sure. And then you've got a castle, a ruined castle there, but it's been, carved to be ruined as opposed to falling apart afterwards. A big chunk missing out of it. The winged face at the top, another winged face up there. This is amazing. And on this side you've got, look at that, there is Death the skeleton holding something over the head of the person sitting down there. That's that's also really cool. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with this statue. It doesn't look like it's lost its head. It's not holding on to its head, is it? It's not like, well, there's an arm there obviously. Is that the head possibly? And down at the bottom, I think that used to be a lion. They often had like lions that they had their feet on. That's really cool. This guy was a big deal, and that's very probably him there. I've been looking at this one for longer than I want to admit, but it says, here lies interred Mrs. and I can't really make it out, that might be Mellor at the end there, but it's spouse to William Strutton, who died October 1738, aged 45 years. So yeah, this William Stratton is obviously the man behind this. And down the bottom there is John Stratton and Catherine Stratton. So yeah, this is a Stratton family things. The Strattons, it must have been a big deal. Even the ends of it, I mean, I don't know what that symbolises at the end there, but it's really smart. There's so much to see in this graveyard. Okay, we're going down to also William McRankin, who died in 1802, aged 72 years. And this has got text all over it, this one is. And on the other side of that stone, it says George Rankin, portioner in Gilmerton. Gilmerton is the area of Edinburgh not far from here. Died December the 17th, 1746, aged 44 years. Also Margaret Douglas, his spouse, who died in 1767. Yeah, this has turned out to be a great wee detour. Heading back up towards the church, which is behind it. Here lies Thomas Peacock, another portioner of Stenhouse. Stenhouse is an area of Edinburgh that's not particularly nice these days. And Newhaven, Stenhouse and Newhaven, died 27th of February 1792, aged 64. And Alexander Peacock, his son, who died in 1795. And then Jean Anderson, spouse of the above, who died in 1800. Yeah, that's quite impressive and very clear and easy to read, which is always a bit of a bonus. Let's go and have a look at what is on the front face of it. Not quite too easy to read. Here lies Thomas Peacock, farmer in something Liberton, a bit of Edinburgh where we are, 1745. Yeah, so some really old memorials in this place. So that's the Peacocks there, and next to them in much better condition because it's a bit newer, in memory of Agnes Peacock, oldest daughter of Thomas Peacock of Stenhouse and the beloved wife of James Buchanan, who died in 1871. Gentleman just came across and started chatting to me. He wasn't telling me to bugger off or anything, he was just having a wee chat, and he was saying over the other side there are some poorhouse graves, and there's also the graves of some pirates on the other side of that wall. So yeah, we'll have to go and see if we can find the graves from the old Liberton poorhouse, and also if we can find any pirates. In terms of history, this is just amazing. It is in the resurrection, John Colvin, server of Westfield, who died November the 8th, 1736, aged 76 years. And then George Colvin, who died something 27th, 1748, aged 32 years. What an amazing piece of stone. There's so much history in this wee churchyard, as there are in all these little churchyards, but this one is particularly floating my boat. And just along from that, there is to the memory of Robert Dryden, who was a portioner in Greenend, who died in 1819. Now I must confess, I've just cheated and googled what a portioner was, and it's somebody who farmed a portion of land, so he was a farmer. This Easter weekend, so we're having an Easter celebration here. They've all finished now, but I was wondering about earlier getting some slightly strange looks from people, but yeah, the kids were enjoying it, so that's the main thing, I suppose. 1827, also of Charles Murray, by who the stone was erected, and he died in 1847. So that means on the other side of it there should be the people for whom it is actually erected by Charles Murray of Leith, in memory of Charles Murray, his father, who was a wright in Gilmerton, who died in 1796, and also Euphan, Harriet, his mother, Euphan, there's a name we haven't seen before, who died 1817, aged 81. Another amazing old tombstone. There's a lady figure on the side. On the back there was space for future expansion that's never been used, but there's quite a scary looking dude up there, and it's all very sort of Grecian type columns. This side there is another lady figure that has suffered a bit more from the effects of erosion, and on the front it says, "Here lies interred James Baxter." Does that look like Baxter? Something like that. No, I can't really read that. Something A-Y, can't be lawyer, something in Gilmertown, which is where we are, but it's got an extra U in it there, who died June the 6th, 1737, aged 65 years. Also Helen, Jean and Marion Baxter's died young. Oh, died young. That's a phrase we haven't seen. Usually died in infancy, but that's died young. And also Samuel Baxter, who died in 1738, aged 24. And here lies Marion Wood, who died November the 1st, 1759. So yeah, it's all quite old. But one thing that did catch my eye on this, you know how we like spotting masons' mistakes? Well, here lies on entombed beneath beneath ye ground. Yeah, couldn't fit it all in, and the D on ground is also up there as opposed to being next to the N. I thought there was people sitting in this little house over here watching me. It's not. They've got some sort of things there, and there's more of them in there. Not people sitting watching me. That's quite a large imposing slab. It's not got anything left written on it. This one over here is also looking quite, oh yes, lots of things for us to look at. DB, skull and crossbones, and unusually a star, and then the remains of the hourglass. And okay, I'm going to see if I can see what it says on that, but if I can't, I'll pretend I didn't even try. Annoyingly, it's another one where it says you can, from this angle, you can see who departed this life, the 18th of April, and then the date is there, but it's not. So let's keep spinning on round the back of this church. Again, more of these sort of wiggly woggly sort of plant type things that we saw on the big tomb over there. This is MH and MP, and it is Thomas Halliburton, who died in 1760, and Margaret Halliburton, who died 1773, and Mark Halliburton, who died in 1798. So that is quite nice. That one there has got an amazing carving at the top. It's got Memento Mori. You remember you're going to die. A skull and a bone and a winged hourglass, and that's a scythe. Had to think of what word was. And an arrow. So I'm not sure about the arrow. I've seen that a few times in this graveyard. I'll find you some more arrows, but I don't. It's like a farmer and a hunter or something. I'm not completely sure. The other side is equally quite impressive. It's got a little guy there. Looks like he's holding the hourglass, and that one is blowing a trumpet, and that is quite a scary looking face. And there's 1740 there as a date, in the hope of something, a resurrection of some sort. I guess it's John. Yeah, I can't see that. And again, after more time than I want to admit, it says John Sibbald. And the reason I know that is not because I managed to read it there, which I did eventually. And he was a gardener at Norton Hall, which is not far from here, who died in 1740. And the reason I know that Sibbald is it's actually written down here, John Sibbald, who died in 1743. So yeah, I should have just read more of it. I could have pretended that I could read that. That is the Sibbald family tombstone. A bit of red sandstone, which as you all know by now doesn't weather particularly well, but it's got the winged head, and it's got, that is the emblem of Edinburgh, the three castle thing there, I think. And down here, yes, we can see a date. The date is 1720. So yeah, that is another old stone. There's a lot of really old stones in this bit. And it is standing back to back with something that is a lot, well, comparatively a lot newer. Adeline Mowbray, who died in 1906. It is quite a cool church as well. That is a cracking building. That would have been the centre of the community when this place was its own little village. Now it is just, as I said before, a bit of a suburb of Edinburgh, and the church is looking a wee bit worse for wear. But the graveyard is still, to be fair, amazing. The sky is getting a bit more grey looking, but it's still a lovely day to be exploring a really, really cool cemetery, and this is definitely a really, really cool cemetery. So we're still in the bit beside the church, which was the oldest part that we found out over there, but there are some slightly newer memorials, so let's go and see. It's people with money. This is William Dobson, a contractor from Edinburgh, born in Midlothian and died in 1916, and also in memory of Charles Gairns Dobson, who died in 1972. So yeah, they are, that's a contractor. And the one next to it is Thomas Dobson, a mason from Greenend, a stonemason, who died in 1876. And his son George and John, and also his wife Janet. So they were a contractor and a mason, and that's why they've got the two best stones in this part of the graveyard. Again, I do like this. I like this bronze detail at the top there. That's really cool. That's a little fenced off for health and safety bit for some, that's the Reverend John Stewart. So that is Reverend John Stewart's sister over there. That is the great and the good, as we always say. So let's just go along and look at this one in the far corner, then we'll head back outside the wall and try and find a pirate. So this is the last big monument against the wall inside the church enclosure, and it is in memory of Lieutenant John Thornton, late of Her Majesty's 94th Regiment, born at Wooler in Northumberland down in England in 1769 and died at Neville Cottage, Liberton in 1870. And then it's got a bit of a bio. It says Lieutenant Thornton joined the army under the Duke of Wellington in 1807 and remained in it until 1817. He was present and engaged in many of the great battles of the period, and being dangerously wounded at that of Neville, he was obliged to retire from active service. So yeah, another man who has probably got a few good stories to tell over a pint of an evening. So we've had skulls, we've had crossbones, we've had 1700s gravestones. This has been a good day. Right, so we're back outside the wall of the church. I wonder if that means back in the day, before this was actually a graveyard. This was unconsecrated ground. Anyway, that man is a farmer, not a pirate. That man is James Oliver Ince, younger son of Robert and Janie Oliver Inch, who died in 1890, aged 8.5. He wasn't a pirate either. Thomas Duncan, son of the late James Sandilands Duncan, a merchant, not a pirate. I don't think we're going to find any pirates. Do you think they'd have pirate written on their tombstone? Here lies such and such and such a pirate. So we're heading back down towards the exit, but this had to be looked at because that is quite impressive. I have no idea what it says. It says sacred to the memory of the undernamed pupils: Francis Crawford, age 11, Francis Irvine, age 13, Charles Scott, age 10. This is the poorhouse grave. Herman Nolan, age 10, John Mitchell, age 14, Alexander Thompson, age 13, Edward Jackson, age 15, and James Grant, age 16. So these were all in an institution near here, and this erected with money collected for the purpose by William Henderson, superintendent, who has been connected with the institution for over 41 years. And it is Dr. Guthrie's original certified industrial school's burying ground. So this was, it must have been a really hard life being a child in an industrial school, and as you can see from that, a lot of them didn't survive it. Oh, and I spoke too soon because I've come round to the side of it, and it's got the Francis and John and Charles and Thomas and George and Matthew, who are all between 10 and 15. Nothing on the back, thankfully. Didn't kill that many in their industrial school. And so nothing on the other side, but still quite a lot of children who would have had no choice, would have had no say in life and didn't really have much of a life to live. Somebody's hiding away in the bushes, and that is there's a David died in 1898, and a David who died, I'm not going in there, it'll be full of creepy crawlies. I don't have a problem with creepy crawlies. I'm going to go and visit somebody in hospital next, and I don't really want to go in there with spiders falling off me. Another part where a lot of them have been laying down, I guess, for their own safety, or tipped over by youth, I don't know, but this is in memory of John Dunlop, who died in 1905, and his elder son John, who was a private in the King's Own Scottish Borderers, who died of wounds in 1918, aged 29. I'm so glad that guy told me about the Workhouse Memorial over there, otherwise I would never have gone looking for it, and that was really, really quite interesting. Well, the sun's come out, so it's time for some more pretty pictures. This is in memoriam of William Morrison Reid, a second lieutenant in the 23rd Manchester Regiment. He was a younger son of W.R. Reid and Hannah Morrison, and he died in 1916. He's actually buried in France, not here, at Merville in France. He died the noblest death that man may die, fighting for God and right and liberty, and such a death is immortality. Possibly not. So buried here are John Reid and Mary Brown, and at the bottom Merville Graham Vincent Brown. Merville, Graham, Vincent, and then Brown is a little carving. I think that might have been a mason's mark and this has been added. It just looks like the mason's run out of space for his little letters. Bromley Reid, M.A., daughter of William Robert Reid, who died in 1983. We do like an urn, and there's a nice granite urn in loving memory of William Young, who died at New Pentland in 1890, aged 55, and his eldest daughter, Margaret Shaw Young, beloved wife of John Dixon, who died at Hawthorne Terrace, Loanhead in 1897. Again, you could go and you could actually find out all these streets and see if the houses are still there. Right, we're going to go and look at this one just because I like a bit of patina on marble, and that is a very nicely patinated marble in memory of Jessie Milne, wife of James Gilchrist, a merchant from Edinburgh. Yes, they've got a big posh gravestone because they are big posh important people. I guess in order to make the best use of the space, they've started filling some of the gaps between the rows of old tombstones with new tombstones, which is nice. It shows the place is still in use, and it gives it a pretty eclectic feel because there's classical old tombstones and Commonwealth War graves, and then very modern tombstones, one of which has got a really nice teddy bear carved on it. And for our friends in Canada, here's one of yours. This is Sergeant G. Allen of the Canadian Forestry Corps, who died in 1942, age 39. He was a loving husband and father who gave us all for eternal peace. I know I'm doubling back on myself now, but I'm going to head back across to the wall where I was looking at some really interesting bronze plaques, but there was a lady and a small child, so I wasn't going to do any filming or talking while they were having a wee moment. So we'll go across now and I'll show you what it was I was looking at. The first thing that we spotted was this rather nice carving here. That is the angel lady there, and this is erected in tender memory of Jane R. Gibson, the devoted wife of Alexander Phillips, who died in 1917. And then next to them there's that, which is quite imposing, a Pictish cross carved on it, and it says Charles Edward Green of Gracemount, 26th of April 1866 to January 1920, or to 6th of January 1920, and Maggie Ann Green, his wife, 29th of June 1867, 6th November 1959. So that's quite a big stone. And there's the RAF gentleman that we saw earlier, but down here, this is quite cool. These plaques set into the wall in loving memory of George Fraser Dobie, who died at St Catherine's, Liberton in 1919, and John Bullen, Popple Dobie, and then Emma Popple, wife of William Fraser Dobie, who died in 1927, and just to complete the set, William Fraser Dobie himself, who died at St Catherine's, Liberton in 1926. But those are really, really nicely done. I couldn't have done that any better. I just said those are really, really nicely done, and then I saw the name on the plaque on the wall next to it. It's James Walker Dunn and Isabella Dunn. That's also very nicely done. Right, enough of that. That is David Hunter of Blackness, Dundee and Mabyhill, Peeblesshire, but we are now heading for the exit. This has been an amazing wee explore. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you do too, and hopefully people will start watching again, because we still seem to have upset YouTube because it's not showing our videos to, well, anybody.